We start by having a meeting with Sir Imric and Lucia. With Thordan dead, the seat of the Archbishop is left vacant. For the meantime, Imric will take the spot of the Archbishop temporarily. Once they have decided on a new Archbishop to take his place, he will surrender his powers immediately. But right now, it is not a good time to seat a new Archbishop, considering Ishgard now remembers their sin, and what Thordan was hiding. Imric didn't intend to hide it all, but considering we showed up on the back of a dragon, he didn't really have a choice. Maybe he could have concealed the truth, but it would have come out eventually. How would the people see him if he chose to be silent? After 1,000 years of lies, he would not abuse their trust and hope. The time for deception has passed. Some do not believe in the words he tells them, many more than he even thought possible. Some even agreed that Thordan had to be stopped, but they still don't believe him. If a coup were to break out, there would be violence. In fact, it has already begun. People of the cloth are being harassed and assaulted. Hilda is helping us keep watch of the broom, but that won't stop the unrest of the people. We need to bring the Dragon Song War to an end, otherwise the people will always live in fear. To take their first steps towards true peace, he wants to make a treaty between us and the dragons at Anix Shrine. The dragon who resides there is Vidofnir, who allowed a safe passage up Som Al for defeating Ravana. They need an open dialogue between their peoples. They want Vidofnir to visit them in Ishgard to talk. Ysera would have been the likely candidate to do this instead, but since her passing we are the second closest to Vidofnir. To continue our journey for true peace, we will do what we must. Lucia is sent with us as a representative of the state.
In the wake of the Archbishop's fall, the nation of Ishgard trembled, the faith of her people shaken to its very core. For 1,000 years had they fought and died, certain of the justice of their cause, only to be told that their holy war was born of the sins of their forefathers. What then for those brave men and women, thus stripped of their righteousness but to despair, to deny the truth and decry its speakers? And what then for those whom they defamed but to hope on, to have faith in a brighter tomorrow? A tomorrow in which man and dragon might live together in harmony, then as distant as the very stars in the heavens. Yet while we dared to hope, deep within his lair the enemy lay, gathering his strength. Nidhogg, now possessed of his 2 eyes and the body of the Azure Dragoon, prizes to which he had laid claim at the very hour of the hero's triumph. As desperately as we sought the solace of peace, the great worm craved the misery of war, nor was he alone in his misbegotten desire.
We first take a detour to Idleshire with Alfinawad and Y'shtola. The reason as to why is because Tataru told us a certain Sharlayan scholar may know how to find Thancred, and that we should meet them here. But in fact, this was not just any Sharlayan scholar, but Krill, a student of Baldessian, a dear friend of Minfilia, who resided on the Isle of Val. Luckily, she survived the attack caused by Nibrales and stands before us today. She recognizes us as the Warrior of Light and is happy to finally meet us. As for Alfinawad, it seems that Krill knows who he is. They met at the Studium years ago. It was hard to keep him out of trouble, considering that him and his sister were only 11 years old when they entered the Studium. She moves on to more pressing matters, finding our fellow scions. As Tataru told the tale of how we escaped, it gave her an idea. Thancred must have left a trail when he was teleported away by Y'shtola's magics. There could be a way to track that trail. To do it, however, she will need Matoya's crystal eye, which is why we are here. With a new destination set, we make way for Matoya's cave, so Krill can state her case and ask to borrow Matoya's crystal eye. Matoya wants us to explain what we want. Krill steps forward and introduces herself. She is a student of Baldessian. The Isle of Val, which housed her headquarters, no longer exists. It was eradicated by magic of immense power, and it is only thanks to the blessing of light that she was able to survive. She joined the students of Baldessian for that reason. They study on all things Eorzea. She wanted to know how she got her own gift. Why did Hydaelyn give it to her? That is how she met Minfilia, through their want of knowledge about the gift. The students of Baldesion are gone, and there's nothing she can do, but the Scions can still be restored. She won't sit idly, whilst her companions can still be saved. In Matoya's possession is an ancient crystal of light, which is known as the Crystal Eye. Krill believes with the use of this crystal, she can focus her abilities and locate Thancred. Matoya leaves and comes back with a blue orb and places it on the table in front of us. It is a crystal of light, just like the one Hydaelyn gave us at the start of our journey. But in comparison, our own crystal is very small when compared to the one on the table. As time passes, Hydaelyn's power is weakening. The potency of her gifts is getting weaker. This crystal of light was one of the earlier ones given out, hence why it is bestowed with so much more power. The abilities granted by the Echo are not all the same. Krill's ability is that she is able to converse with all beings, excluding beasts. This also includes the elementals, specifically the elementals who helped locate Y'shtola. She believes that with the help of the Crystal Eye, she may be able to continue from the trail left by the elementals and find Thancred. As long as she doesn't drop it or take it out of Matoya's sight, she is free to do whatever she wants with it. She begins to channel Aether into the Crystal Eye, and it radiates a bright light. Krill closes her eyes and starts to follow the trail. From the Black Shroud, the trail continues north and west towards a mountain, the foot of Som Al. With that, the spell is done, and we have an idea as to where he may be. We should move towards Dravania and ask the Tailfeather hunters if they have seen anything out of the ordinary lately. When arriving at Tailfeather, we question the locals. One thing we know for certain is that there is an unknown Hurrian hunter out there in the woods. Krill has heard a different tale instead, however. She learned of a Vath trader who came into Tailfeather looking for clothes that could fit a man. We find this Vath and question him. They did indeed have dealings with the fleshling clothed in skins. He was given aid in exchange for meat and hides. He stayed with them until he heard that the Nath had summoned Ravana once more. Finding Thancred is no longer the priority. Instead, we must take out Ravana. At the Nath stronghold, we take out the guards out front, and the rest of our comrades meet up with us. We can hear the sounds of battle over the wall. Could it be Thancred? We must hurry inside and help him. At the scene of the battle, Ravana is fighting with a mysterious band of adventurers. A warrior, a paladin, a black mage, a white mage, and a bard. The warrior deals the final blow to Ravana. We want to meet the band of adventurers. For them to be able to slay a primal means that they aren't just an ordinary group. Who are they? Are they friend or foe? When our gaze meets with the warrior, both of our echoes begin to activate, and we are given a vision of the past. We arrive in the Ethereal Sea. The same band of adventurers we saw before is fighting an Ashian. The Ashian mocks them. They are just fools playing hero, thinking they can save their world. The warrior is readying his axe. White Aether starts to gather around the weapon, turning it into a weapon of light. Just as we did to Laha Brea, he sends a beam of pure Aether towards the Ashian, ending their existence. We awake from the vision. The mysterious warrior calls out to us. So we are the warrior of light, the savior of Eorzea. He mocks us for not having arrived faster to defeat Ravana. Have we lost our step? They must be a foe then. Every word he speaks to us is layered with disdain. Y'shtola warns us to be careful. Aether moves strangely around them. Who are these people? Instead, the man replies that he will show us who they are. The bard begins opening fire towards us. Arrows fall from the sky, but Y'shtola blocks the arrows with her barrier. Their paladin rushes forward and bashes her with his shield, knocking her to the ground. Their black mage casts a spell towards Krill and Alfinoa, sending them flying backwards. Y'shtola is still on the floor. The paladin tries to finish her off, but she activates a shield just before his blow lands. The mysterious warrior places his axe into the floor and starts dragging it along the ground, heading straight for us as we're still thrown off balance by the echo, but he has stopped dead in his tracks by flying knives. It is from none other than Thancred. Thancred leaps towards the man and delivers a kick straight into his axe. They begin to clash, their weapons creating sparks every time a blow is blocked by one another. They seem to be on equal footing. It looks like the man was going to continue the fight, but their white mage stops him from continuing on. He rolls his eyes, telling her that it wasn't very sportsmanlike of her to interrupt their fight, but so be it. They will retreat for now. He tells us to remember their faces, for they are the warriors of darkness. They walk a path different from us, and we shall meet them again. If we're the warrior of light, then the warriors of darkness must be our enemies. We will burn their faces into our memory, and be ready for our next battle. Outside of the Nath stronghold, we finally have our reunion with Thancred. As per usual, he was waiting for the most opportune moment to jump out from the shadows and aid us in our time of need. After the forbidden magics used by Y'shtola teleported Thancred to Som Owl, just as Y'shtola was, he was naked and had no belongings. He fashioned some knives from obsidian and began to hunt for meat and hides. He has no skills with leatherworking, and met a Vath who helped him fasten a set of armor. He traded the meat and hides he gathered for clothes. That's where he learned of Ravana and the great warrior who had once laid him low. Then he decided to track the Primal's movements, which would eventually allow him to run into the Scions once again. That was his idea. There really isn't anyone else in the world who has a knack for killing Primals as we do. Well, until now. The Warriors of Darkness. Just who are they? It seems that Krill shared the same vision we had, that depicted them defeating an Ashian. They must have powers like the Echo. But why would they be called the Warriors of Darkness if they were fighting darkness itself? There are too many questions and not enough information to create answers. Either way, the Lord of the Hive is no more, and we should tell Vidofnir. She is happy to say that Hraesvelgir allowed her to choose whether or not she accepts the invitation. Putting her faith in us, she will journey to Ishgard. Whilst journeying back, we tell Thancred of what he missed. Though he is glad to hear about our successes, he is saddened to hear that Papalamo, Yida, and Minfilia are still missing. But we mustn't lose hope. There will be a future where we are all reunited once more.
Even as the Scions celebrated the return of a long-lost friend, honorable men plotted to deprive them of another. Honorable men, to whom Sir Emeric was no hero but a scheming patricide. Honorable men who would fain wash the paving stones of foundation with the tyrant's blood. Honorable men whose knife in the dark was the spark which set the city aflame, and who sang as it burned.
Lucia is happy to hear that Vidofnir is accepting their peace talks, but is also saddened that Sir Imric isn't here to hear it. He was wounded in an assassination attempt. He will make a full recovery, but it was a spark that ignited the whole coup. It was an organized attack. Soon after the attempt, buildings were set ablaze. When fires are put out, new ones were set. There is no end to this chaos. They are trying to locate who started the fires. There are so many factions in Ishgard. Is there anyone who would want to maintain the status quo? Imric joins the conversation, stating that there are far too many to count. His wounds haven't healed. Why is he here? He cannot sit idly. Time is of the essence. There are men out there who would rather burn the city to the ground instead of seeing it change. Who knows how they'll react if given the time to do so? A knight rushes in, telling us an armed mob have seized control of the vault. They were directing refugees when all of a sudden men brandishing weapons were surrounding them. It happened so fast that they didn't have the time to respond. They took all the refugees hostage and barricaded themselves inside. They allowed this knight to leave, to deliver their demands to Sir Imric. They are known as the True Brothers of Faith and demand that a new archbishop must be appointed. They also declare Sir Imric guilty of patricide and high treason. He should surrender himself to receive Fury's judgment. Do they truly believe that the truth will die with Imric's execution? They rage against the change that is happening without realizing that there is no going back. Considering they want Sir Imric's head, we may not be able to resolve this peacefully. If we want to rescue the refugees, we will need to use force. Imric is in agreement and continues to show why he is the Lord Commander of the Temple Knights. He commands Lucia to take the knights and set up a perimeter outside the entrance. He tells Hilda to hold control on the broom. Once they figure out that their family is being held hostage, they may try and take this into their own hands. We mustn't give them more people to take as hostages. As for the rest of us, we will assault the front door with Imric. Time is against us. We must make haste. We sneak into the vault, but it isn't long till we are found. The rebels try to execute the hostages, but they are no match for our might. We rescue all of the captives, but one is missing. A broom girl named Maylee. We learn a priest has taken her to the higher levels. We rush to the upper levels of the vault, and we find a priest is holding the girl by her throat, dangling her off the edge, warning us to not come any closer as he pushes her outwards. We try to take control of the situation, but Imric stops us as he intends to solve it with words. If provoked, he may just drop the girl the moment we get any closer. He calmly states that there is nowhere left to go. Their group has been defeated and disbanded. All the hostages have been rescued except one. Surrender and release the girl to us. The man has clearly lost his reasoning. He starts shouting back to Imric. He would rather die than surrender to him. Imric tries to reason with him. It isn't godly to spill the blood of an innocent child, to burn the homes of your brothers. The priest snaps back at him, telling him to shut up. Don't speak to me of godliness. His father's blood is on his hands, as is this girl's. He looks towards the girl. At first there is regret in his eyes. Maybe he is having second thoughts. But suddenly the regret on his face contorts into an evil grin. He looks the broom girl directly in her eyes. Her eyes begin to widen, knowing exactly what he's about to do. She struggles to break free, but he loosens his grip and throws her off the top of the vault. Her screams continue as she continues to descend. The people start to panic as they see the girl about to collide with the entrance of the vault. Just before she reaches the ground, Vidofne catches the girl upon her back and brings her back down to the ground safely. Did Vidofne choose a bad time to discuss the peace treaty? It was just Ishgard who was at fault for not providing a worthy reception for her. Without her, this girl would have been dead. The people are still wary about seeing a dragon. We join the rest of the people outside and spot that Maylee is safe and sound. Imric is glad to be indebted to such a savior as Vidofne. She looks towards us, saying that she had hoped to meet with us. Grace Velgir has a message for us. After taking both of his eyes and Estinian's body hostage, Nidhogg did retreat back to his brood, and he sang. He sang to his brood, and they have left, but they are unaware as to where they are going. The fate of Ishgard is bound to the fate of Nidhogg. That is all she had to tell us. It was an unexpected turn of events, but not an unwelcome one. The people of Ishgard will not forget this day, cementing the treaty that they want to have with the dragons. But how would the people remember this day? As a day that brought them together, or as a day that drove them further apart? After 1,000-year rule, the world that these people knew is changing fast. They may be misguided, but it is to be expected. Who wouldn't if everything they knew and stood for was a lie? Some wouldn't take that news lightly. There may be others who rally to their ideals. There is a desire for peace with the Dravanians, but it will not be built on the bodies of the Ishgardian or the Dravanian countrymen. After the whole ordeal, we decide to go to Count Edmund's manor and recount the tale of what just occurred to Tataru. Artoriel arrives and is glad to see that we haven't left just yet. He signals to his retainer, who leaves and then comes back with a shield of House Fortemps. Our own one this time. It was long overdue. We accept the shield proudly. The atmosphere in the room shifts as Artoriel has more to tell. He has delicate information that cannot leave this room. Count Edmund will soon step down as the head of the house. Imric wasn't the only one who fell under suspicion following Thordan's death. They believe Edmund was aiding the coup. Therefore, he intends to give up his title and absolve House Fortemps of any suspicions. Even if there may be another way to convince the houses, Edmund won't change his mind. It is his decision to make. Artoriel knew this day would come. As a child, his heart was full of pride because of that fact, but now it has finally happened, and his heart is full of dread. Ishgard exists because of the lies of their forefathers, but accepting the role of the Count doesn't that also preserve the notion that the nation was built on? Seeing as he is seeking guidance, we tell him the words of his late brother, "A knight lives to serve." Artoriel remarks that we sound just like him. If Horschfont was still here today, he probably would have said the same thing. When we look upon the shield, we should remember his words, and should his resolve become unsteady, he would ask that we guide him once more. We were a brother to Horschfont. Will we be a brother to him too? Of course. All of House Fortemps is like family to us. Artoriel is now resolved to do what he must. He tells Amanda Lane to come with him. There is much to be done.
Those were the days of promises and vows, of tentative first steps into an uncertain future. A future shaped by the choices we made, in ways we could never have foreseen. Born of good and evil, of light and darkness, and shepherded by our hand. Be it for weal, or be it for woe.
Urianger is examining a book in a dark and abandoned library. He is searching for the truth, a truth that was long forgotten, a tale of the beginning of the world. The person who is allowing him access to these texts is none other than Elidibus, one of the Ashians. The fates of the Archons and the Ashians were intertwined long ago. They know what must be done. We finally see our first sightings of Ul'dah and Papalamo. They seem to be mingling with the resistance in Ul'dah. The faction known as the Masks will attack when ready. The heroes won't even be aware of it happening until it does. Ul'dah wants to stay and help them fight, even though she has all the responsibilities of being an Archon.